My father betrayed me with my dead mom's sister. They tried kicking me out of my own house, but my grandpa arrived with legal documents that destroyed them and exposed their affair before she even died. I'm 17 years old. I live in the house where I grew up, and about 6 months ago, my mom died from cancer after years of fighting that shit. And what happened after basically destroyed any relationship I had with my dad and half of my mom's family. I don't even know where to start with this, honestly, because I'm still having trouble processing everything that happened, but I guess I should start at the end of my mom's life, when things were already really bad. My mom was sick for like 4 years, maybe 5. I don't remember exactly when the symptoms started, but I do remember when they diagnosed her with pancreatic cancer. I was like 13. My dad worked all day. He was the only one bringing money into the house because my mom had to quit her job when she started chemotherapy, and basically I became her primary caregiver. It sounds weird to say it like that. Like, I was a kid taking care of his sick mom, but that's how it was. I made her food. I helped her shower when she was too weak. I gave her medicines. I woke up at night when she was coughing or throwing up, and my dad would come home from work at like 8 or 9 at night and go straight to sleep. I don't blame him completely. I guess because he was working like 12 hours a day to pay for treatments and bills, but at the same time, I felt like I was alone in this. You know what I mean? Like my mom and I were a team, and my dad was in another world. The last 6 months of my mom's life were the worst. She couldn't get out of bed anymore. She had lost like 30 kilos, and I knew she was dying, even though nobody told me directly. She knew she was dying too, obviously, and she started having these weird conversations with me where she'd tell me things like, "Tyler, you know this house is yours, right?" And I'd tell her, "Mom, don't talk like that. You're gonna be fine," because I didn't want to accept it. But she insisted. She'd tell me, "Listen to me. This house is yours. Your grandfather gave it to me when I had you. It's in your name. And if anything happens to me, your grandfather is the legal guardian until you turn 18. And I would just nod because I didn't want to argue with her, but I also didn't really understand why she was telling me all this. My mom died on a Tuesday morning, around 6 a.m. I was sleeping on the couch in her room because I had been taking care of her all night, and suddenly I woke up because everything was too quiet. I went to her bed and she wasn't breathing anymore. I called my dad, who was in his room, and he called the paramedics. But it was too late. She was already gone. The funeral was like 4 days later, and I swear it was one of the worst moments of my life. Like, seeing my mom in that coffin, seeing her so small and fragile, surrounded by flowers with the whole family crying. My Aunt Beverly, my mom's sister, was there crying like she was the most affected person in the world, hugging my dad, consoling him. And at that moment, I didn't think anything weird. I mean, it was normal for her to be there. She was her sister. But looking back, I should have seen it coming. Like 2 weeks passed after the funeral, and my dad started acting different. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it was like he was happier, more upbeat, like his wife had just died and he was whistling while making his coffee in the morning. I was still destroyed, crying every night, couldn't even eat properly, and he was there like nothing had happened. And then one day, like 3 weeks after my mom died, he told me we needed to talk. We sat in the living room and he said, "Tyler, I know this is going to sound weird, but I need you to listen to me. I've been dating Beverly, your aunt, and I think it's best for both of us because we're both going through the same thing and we understand each other." I just sat there unable to believe it. Like, is he seriously telling me this? 3 weeks after my mom died? My mom's sister? I told him he was sick. How could he do something like that? That mom had barely died and he was already with her sister, and he got defensive, saying I didn't understand, that he was suffering too, and Beverly understood him in a way I couldn't. I told him I wasn't going to accept that it was disrespectful to my mom, and he told me I was too young to understand adult things, and that I had to accept it because he was my father. Basically told me to shut up and accept the situation. From that day on, the relationship between us became horrible. Like, I barely talked to him, ate alone in my room, avoided being in the same room as him, and he didn't make any effort to fix things either. Like a month later, my Aunt Beverly started coming to the house more often. At first it was just to visit, or so they said, but then she started sleeping over, And one day I came home from school and saw she had suitcases in the entrance. I asked my dad what was going on, and he told me Beverly was going to move in with us, that he had invited her to live here because it made sense. He didn't ask my opinion, didn't give me prior notice, he just did it. Beverly moved into the master bedroom, the room where my mom had died literally 2 months ago, and that seemed like the most disgusting thing in the world to me. I started spending more time outside the house, at friends' houses, at the library, wherever, because I couldn't stand being there with the two of them acting like they were a normal, happy couple. Things got worse when Beverly's daughter, my cousin Melissa, also moved into the house. Melissa was 19. She had left college because she said it wasn't for her, and apparently she needed a place to stay. The house had 3 bedrooms, the master where my dad and Beverly were, my room, and a guest room that my mom used as an office. My dad told me Melissa was going to take the guest room, and I didn't think much of it at first. Like, well, another problem for the list. But then things got really serious, like 2 weeks after. Melissa moved in. My dad called me to his room and told me we needed to have another conversation. Beverly was there too, sitting on the bed with that satisfied face that made me want to punch it off. My dad told me, "Tyler, you're almost 18 now. I think it's time for you to start living on your own, to be independent. And since Melissa needs more space and we want to have privacy, I think it's best if you find another place to live." I stood there, unable to believe it. Like, is he kicking me out of my own house? The house where I grew up? The house where my mom died? I told him this was my house, that I had lived here my whole life, and he told me that technically the house was in his name and he could decide who lived here and who didn't. Beverly added something like, "Honey, this is for your own good. You need to learn to take care of yourself." And I just looked at her with so much hatred, I think even she got a little scared. I told my dad I wasn't leaving, that this was my house as much as his, and he got really angry. Like, he started yelling, saying I was ungrateful, that he had worked his whole life to maintain this house, that I didn't contribute anything, and that if I didn't like it, I should leave right now. Beverly tried to calm him down, but in a very fake way, like touching his arm and saying, "Love, calm down. Let me talk to him." And she told me in that sweet, fake voice that made me want to throw up, "There are assistance programs for young people that can help you get an apartment." Basically, she was telling me to get lost and look for help from the government or something. I told them I wasn't leaving and went to my room. That night I couldn't sleep. I was too angry and scared at the same time. Like, what was I going to do if they really kicked me out? I didn't have money. I didn't have a job. I was still in high school, and all my friends lived with their parents, so I couldn't stay with them long term. I started thinking about going to live with someone from the family, but honestly, I didn't have many options. My paternal grandparents had already died, and from my mom's side, I only knew my grandfather, my mom's dad. But he lived like 3 hours from here, and I hadn't seen him much since the funeral. The next day, my dad gave me an ultimatum. He told me I had 1 week to find another place to live, or he would call the police to have me removed by force. 1 week. After everything I had done for my mom, after taking care of her for years while he worked, after being the one who saw her die, he was giving me 1 week to get out of my house. I was devastated. I didn't know what to do, and I started packing some things in a backpack thinking maybe I'd have to sleep on the street or in a shelter or something. I was in my room throwing clothes in the backpack when Melissa knocked on the door and came in. Melissa and I hadn't talked much since she moved in. Like, we'd say hi in the hallway and that's it. But she came into my room that day and closed the door behind her. She looked nervous, like scared, and she told me quietly, "Tyler, I have to give you something, but you can't tell anyone I gave it to you. Do you promise you won't say anything?" I was confused, but I told her yes, and she took an envelope out of her pocket and gave it to me. It was a white envelope, like the ones used for letters, and it had my name written in my mom's handwriting. Melissa told me, "Your mom gave me this like 2 weeks before she died. She told me that if anything happened and your dad tried to kick you out of the house, to give you this." I didn't know what to say. I just took the envelope and Melissa left the room quickly, like she was afraid someone would see her with me. I opened the envelope with trembling hands, and inside was a letter from my mom. The handwriting was kind of shaky. You could tell she wrote it when she was already very weak, but I could read it perfectly. The letter said something like, "Tyler, my love, if you're reading this, it's because things happened exactly as I feared. I know your dad is going to try to keep the house and kick you out, and I know he's probably going to be with Beverly because I saw them flirting months ago when he thought I was asleep from the meds. Don't be surprised. My love, I knew what was coming. But listen to me carefully. This house is yours. Your grandfather gave it to me when you were born, and it's always been in your name. Your dad has no legal right to it. I changed the legal guardianship of the house. Originally, it was your dad who was going to be the guardian until you turned 18. But I changed it to your grandfather 3 months ago because I knew I couldn't trust your dad. Call your grandfather. His number is at the end of this letter. And tell him what's happening. He has all the legal documents, and he's going to protect you. I love you more than anything in the world, and I'm sorry I can't be there to defend you myself. Mom." I started crying reading that letter. I cried like I hadn't cried since she died. My mom had known all along. She had known my dad was going to betray her, that he was going to try to steal my house, and she had protected me even after death. And at the same time, I was furious. Furious with my dad, furious with Beverly, furious with the whole world. But I also felt enormous relief because now I had a way to defend myself. I wasn't completely defenseless like I thought. I called my grandfather that same night from my cell phone, hiding in my room so my dad wouldn't hear me. He answered after the second ring, and when I explained what was happening, he got furious, like I had never heard him so angry. He told me not to do anything, not to tell my dad anything yet, and that he was coming here with his lawyer the next day. My grandfather is pretty wealthy. I mean, he has a real estate company or something, and he's always had good lawyers. And that night, he told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Tyler, your mom was my only daughter, and I'm not going to let that son of a bitch take what she left you. Trust me." And I believed him. The next day, my grandfather arrived with his lawyer around 3 inches the afternoon. I was at school when they arrived, but Melissa sent me a message saying, "Your grandfather is here with a man in a suit and your dad is pale. I think they're in trouble." I left school before classes ended, didn't even ask permission, just left. And when I got home, there was a car I didn't recognize parked outside, a black Mercedes that I figured was the lawyer's. I went into the house, and my grandfather was sitting in the living room with a man about 50 years old in a suit with a briefcase, and my dad and Beverly were sitting on the couch looking like they were going to throw up. My grandfather saw me come in and signaled for me to sit next to him. The lawyer started talking. He took out a bunch of papers from his briefcase and started explaining the legal situation. He said the house had been a gift from my grandfather to my mom when I was born, that it was in my name with my mom as legal guardian until I turned 18, and that 3 months ago my mom had legally changed the guardianship from my dad to my grandfather. He showed the documents, certified copies of the house deed, of the guardianship changes, everything. My dad tried to say that wasn't possible, that the house was his, that he had paid for maintenance all these years, and the lawyer told him that didn't matter, that the house had never been his legally, that paying for maintenance didn't give him any property rights. Beverly was there quiet, looking angrier and angrier, and I realized in that moment that they had planned all of this. They had gotten together thinking they could keep the house and kick me out like I was trash. My grandfather told my dad, "You have 1 month to get out of this house, you and your girlfriend, or I'll remove you legally. If you try to cause Tyler any problems, if you try to take anything that isn't exclusively yours, I'll have you arrested. This house belongs to my grandson, and you have no right to be here." My dad turned red, started yelling that this was unfair, that he had worked his whole life to maintain this house, that I was ungrateful, and my grandfather just stood up and told him, "My daughter died being cared for by your 17-year-old son while you were fucking her sister, so don't talk to me about unfairness." That comment left my dad speechless. He literally stood there with his mouth open, and Beverly started crying, saying that wasn't true, that they had started their relationship after my mom died. That's when Melissa, who had been standing at the entrance to the living room watching all this, spoke for the first time. She said, "Mom, stop lying. I saw you two kissing in the car like 2 months before my aunt died, and you told me not to tell anyone." Beverly looked at her with so much hatred, I thought she was going to kill her right there. Like, I had never seen someone so furious. She got up from the couch and slapped Melissa so hard the sound echoed through the whole room. Melissa stood there with her hand on her cheek, crying, and I got up instinctively to defend her, but my grandfather stopped me. The lawyer told Beverly she had just committed assault in front of witnesses and that Melissa had every right to call the police, and Melissa took out her phone and called the police right there. Beverly started begging her not to do it, that she was her mother, that she was just angry. But Melissa told her something that left me frozen. She said, "You're not my mother. A mother doesn't hit her daughter for telling the truth, and you knew what you were doing was wrong and you didn't care. Go to hell." The police arrived like 20 minutes later, took statements, and took Beverly away detained for domestic assault. I tried to defend her, but my grandfather's lawyer warned him that if he kept trying to interfere, he could also have legal problems. Beverly spent the night in jail, and Melissa didn't drop the charges. In fact, she said she wanted to get a restraining order against her mom because she was afraid of her. My dad stayed in the house that night but didn't talk to me, didn't look at me, nothing, just locked himself in his room. I stayed in the living room with my grandfather and Melissa, the three of us sitting there processing everything that had happened, and my grandfather hugged me and told me everything was going to be okay, that he wasn't going to let anyone hurt me. The next few days were weird. Beverly got out of jail the next day but couldn't get near Melissa because of the temporary restraining order, so she went to live in a hotel or something. I don't know. My dad started packing his things. He had no other choice. The lawyer had made it very clear that if he didn't leave, voluntarily they were going to remove him with a court order. Melissa stayed in the house with me and my grandfather. She said she never wanted to go back to her mom, and my grandfather told her she could stay as long as she needed. I thanked Melissa for what she had done. Like, if she hadn't given me that letter and if she hadn't admitted about my dad and Beverly, I'd probably be living on the street right now. She told me she had wanted to say something for a long time but was afraid of her mom, but when she saw they wanted to kick me out, she couldn't stay quiet. My dad left the house like 2 weeks later. He didn't say goodbye to me, didn't tell me anything, just packed his things and left. I heard he went to live with Beverly in another state. I don't know exactly where, and honestly, I don't care. I haven't talked to him since then. It's been like 6 months and I haven't received a single message, not a call, nothing. Part of me is still angry with him, obviously, but another part just feels like a deep sadness. Like, this was my dad, the man who was supposed to protect me, and he betrayed me in the worst possible way. My grandfather moved into the house with me, said he wasn't going to leave me alone while I was still a minor. I turn 18 inches like 3 months, and then I'll have complete legal control of the house, but until then, my grandfather is my legal guardian and also the guardian of the house. Melissa still lives here too. She's looking for work and says she wants to save up to eventually get her own place, but for now it's the three of us here, and honestly, I don't mind. Like, she's the only cousin who really treated me right, and I feel like I owe her a lot. My grandfather is paying for therapy for me because he says I need to process everything that happened, and I guess he's right. I still have nightmares where my dad is kicking me out of the house or where my mom is dying again. Last week I was cleaning my mom's room, her old office, trying to organize for her things because I still hadn't been able to touch anything in there, and I found a box with old photos of when I was a baby. There was a photo of my mom holding me in the hospital the day I was born, her looking so young and happy, and my dad next to her smiling too. And I started thinking about how things change. Like, in that photo, they looked like a happy couple, like parents who loved their son. And now my mom is dead, my dad betrayed me, and I'm here basically alone except for my grandfather and Melissa. I don't know what I'm going to do when I turn 18. I'll probably keep living here because it's my house and because it has all the memories of my mom, but at the same time, sometimes I feel like I want to sell everything and start over somewhere else where I don't have to remember all this every day. My grandfather tells me not to make important decisions until I'm more emotionally stable, and I think he's right. For now, I'm focusing on finishing high school. I have like 6 months left before I graduate, and then I'll see what to do with my life. Melissa tells me I'm strong for having gone through all this, but honestly, I don't feel strong. I feel tired and sad and angry most of the time. But I guess I'm here. I'm alive. I have a roof over my head that's legally mine, and I have some people who really care about me. And that has to be enough for now, right?